What's up, everybody? Joe Ringen here. I'm an author. I've written a book. A fantasy book, a tale of epic fantasy. The book is called The Ballad of Ages. I also love to read books, and I want to get my reviews and my thoughts on the books I read out there for the world. And so I write a blog with my reviews, and now I'm putting them all in video form here. And hopefully you guys like them. There's some weird blue stuff going on with my glasses. That is interesting. It's the weird screen tint thing. Anyway, today I have an amazing book to review. I'll just say up front, this book, it's 100 out of 10. It's incredible. It's a classic for a good reason. Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy. I read another Thomas Hardy book a while ago, The Mayor of Casterbridge, and I'll be honest, it wasn't my favorite book. It was good, and it's deserved to be a classic, but I don't know, it just didn't really do much for me. Kind of boring, in my opinion. So, but at the same time, I picked this book up as well. Fate decided I would read The Mayor of Casterbridge first. So I read that and just kind of shelved Tess of the D'Urbervilles. And it's kind of funny how I picked it up last week and started reading this book. I'm so glad I did, by the way. But so what happened, I finished, or a couple weeks ago, I got a bunch of books at the library all at once. And I finished them, whatever, and then I had a couple days left before I'd return them, so I started the Player of Games, book 2 in the Culture series by Lane Banks. And I just figured, all right, well, I'll be able to renew it. Big deal. So I got like 2 chapters in, and then I got an email from the library saying, hey, this is due in 2 days. And I knew there ain't no way I was going to finish that book in 2 days, so I gave up on it. I'll come back to it at some point. Someone out there really needed to read that book and put a hold on it, so I could not renew it. But that's fine, because it ended up working out for good in the end, because I picked this book up off of my shelf. That same day, when I returned the book to the library, I pulled up a video of one of my favorite YouTube book reviewers, Tristan and the Classics. Look up that channel. It is phenomenal. Tristan is awesome. I love his content. He reviews classics, and yeah. Anyway, so there was a book video he did about books to read in the autumn, because it's fall right now, it's September, and this was on there. So I'm like, hey, I have that book. Let's roll the dice. And oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, this book, it doesn't need me to sing its praises. It's widely considered one of the best books out there of all time. It's on the list of every best classic literature book, and for good reason. And so I'll give my thoughts on it. It's not going to do it justice, whatever's up in here, but man, this book, so good. All right, let's jump into it. My thoughts, the reasons I think it's so good. So, first and foremost, the writing style. Thomas Hardy is a master of the English language. So the way he describes things is better than I think anyone else have read. That might not be true, but no one else comes to mind right off top. So his descriptions are so good. He creates a scene for you. You are in the scene that he makes. You can feel what where the characters are. You can smell where the characters are. Everything. You can touch it. It's tangible. It blurs the lines between the fiction of this book and reality. Like you are like your arms going through, and you're like, am I in this book or am I in the real world? I don't know because his descriptions are so good. I don't have like examples ready, but just know it's incredible. So that's just the descriptions and the way he uses words, man. It's like music, and I don't mean like lyrics in a song. It's not like poetry. I mean just the meter of his sentences, how the words bounce off of the other. It's music. It's like butter. It's so good. Every sentence has the exact right word in the exact right order. There is every sentence he writes, there is no better way that sentence could have been written. None. This book is so good. Thomas Hardy is a great writer. And this is better than Mayor of Castbridge. And I think that book was written before this one. So he might have had time to get better at writing. But yeah, his writing style is amazing. My favorite technique of his that he uses so well that I wish other authors would pay attention to and emulate and cram inside their brain so that they could replicate it. He does not state things bluntly. He doesn't say what happens. He doesn't say, Tess walked towards that tree or something. Like, he doesn't say, oh, it's dark out. He doesn't say it's cold outside. He will describe that. He will create enough of a portrait of what is happening. And he will leave pieces scattered throughout the next coming paragraphs. And it forces the reader to find those pieces and then complete the portrait, complete the puzzle. And so that's how you know what happens in this book. It's so refreshing and it's smart, and it makes the reader smarter for having gone through that exercise. You don't even know, like, when you're reading it, you don't feel like it's work. You don't feel like you're being taught, or you don't feel like you're getting more intelligent, but it happens. And that's what's so amazing about it. I read a ton of science fiction and fantasy. That genre is my jam. There's a lot of different authors that I read in that genre. Most are just to the point. Most will just say, this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened next. That's not that's not how Thomas Hardy does it. And that's why this book is a classic. If you could write bluntly like a lot of fantasy authors do and be considered a classic, there would be a bazillion classic books out there. But it takes a master to write like Thomas Hardy does and force the reader to complete the picture on their own. The reason that works so well, and another reason I should say why I appreciate that so much, is because in a lot of fantasy books, and if you've watched my other videos or read my other reviews, a lot of fantasy books, at least the adult fantasy books, not the YA or the whatever, like I said, they speak very bluntly, and there's a lot of scenes of adult mature content, and it's just I don't enjoy reading those things. Some people maybe do, whatever, but I don't. It takes me out of the story, and it's just like, I didn't sign up for this. I know it happens. It's important when it's important to the plot. It's okay, and I'll get through it, whatever. But when it's just like there for no reason, then I hate it. It's just dumb. Tess of the D'Urbervilles, it's a very mature book. Like, there's mature content, adult content that happens and is very important to the plot. So I'm going to get into spoilers right now. I just can't talk about this book anymore without. So at the very beginning, Tess the main character, gets taken advantage of by the villain character, Alec D'Urberville. Gets taken advantage of, and then later on has a child, and then I'll talk more about it in a minute. So if this was George R. R. Martin writing this book, or Terry Goodkind wrote Terry Goodkind wrote this book, yikes, I would have thrown it in the garbage without getting past the first act. It would be so disgusting how Thomas Hardy, like I said, he gives an outline of the portrait, leaves some pieces for you to pick up and put it together. He does not explicitly state ever what happens to Tess, but the reader is able to figure it out on their own, and it doesn't take you out of the story. It doesn't make you cringe. It doesn't make you you could read. I wouldn't recommend it, but you could read it to kids, and they wouldn't know. They wouldn't go home asking mom and dad about the birds and the bees or whatever. So, thank you, Thomas Hardy. It will not force anyone to put this book down and stop reading. He incorporates an act of humanity that happens because the world is an evil place, and it allows the reader to continue on, know that happens, and appreciate the rest of the story because of it. That is such a good technique, such a good skill. And for that reason alone, every person that wants to be a writer or is a writer needs to read this book, in my opinion, just to learn how to do that, because he does it so well. So the writing style is phenomenal. Moving on to plot, theme, characters. Kind of touched on the plot a little bit, at least the very beginning part of it. So what's so interesting about this book is the plot is very simple. It's just a simple plot. There's no huge reveals or twists and turns. Like the end, there kind of is, but it's not this big curtain reveal, whatever. It's just a simple the plot is there's a ordinary low class female girl, Tess, who what she wants in life is to find a husband and live a happy life in love with her husband. That's a beautiful thing, and that's a great plot, and that's something that the rest of the world can attach to and understand and resonate with, and that's why, and connect with, but that's the plot. How is that a plot? There's some things that happen, obviously, but that's what the book's about. And so it's funny because if I were to ask myself hey, do you want to read a book about this girl who just wants to fall in love and get married? I'd be like, no. Where's the sword fights, man? Where's the magic and the wizards or the spaceships and stuff? So thank you, Tristan the Classics, for recommending this book. But the beauties and the simplicity of the story, of the plot, and it really is a beautiful tale. It's also so sad. It's the saddest book I've ever read. It's a tragedy of the utmost. So sad. So then I'm like, okay, why is this book great? It's just it's a boring plot and it's depressing. Why is this a classic of literature? I don't get it. Because it reaffirms to any who read it that they are human. It allows them to understand I am a part of the human race, and we as adults, adults, for maybe there's kids watching this, I don't know, or senior citizens, or whatever. So there's just the ordinary mechanical life that we fall into, right? You wake up, eat breakfast, go to work, come home, eat dinner, sit on the couch with your wife, read books, go to bed, play with the dog, repeat. Like, it's just such a routine, mechanical life. So then we kind of forget what it means to be human, what it means to feel, what it means to have emotions when you're young, just on the cusp of adulthood. Your emotions are so active. There's so much going on. You feel alive, and that's great. This book reminds you of those feelings, and you can connect and you can feel everything along with these characters, and it's so good. It's very sad in this book. That's I'll warn you, if you don't want to feel sadness, don't read this book. It's a tragedy and also a gift. This book is a gift to the world by Thomas Hardy, given by Thomas Hardy. For tragedy is a very useful thing and important for us as people to grapple with. Best done when it's through a book, not in reality. Grappling with tragedy in reality is unfortunate, and I don't want people to do that. So when we can do that along with fictional characters by reading their stories, we get the fruits of that tragedy. We get to understand what caused it and how to avoid it in our own lives. And so it's a gift that Thomas Hardy gave us that we should all read so we don't fall into the same fate or be part of what creates the tragedy for Tess in this book. So, more of the plot. After she is taken advantage of, she moves back home and finds out she's with a child. And the child lives, I think, a couple weeks maybe, and sadly dies. And this ruins Tess's life. Not only, does she lose her kid, she loses her future, she loses any chance at happiness. Because in the society that she lives in, the Victorian society, she is an outcast because of what was done to her. She had a child out of wedlock. And for a woman back then to have that happen, you're a pariah. You are garbage. So that's her life. So her dreams are shattered. This is exactly why it's important to read books like this, so we don't have societies that do this, that have rules that create these situations. So Tess, she decides eventually she's going to be a lowly farm hand at a dairy farm. She moves out and lives there and works there. But then a little bit of joy comes through. She falls in love with Angel Clare is his name. He's the farmer's apprentice. He's going to go off and be a farmer on his own one day and own his own farm, but at the time, he's an apprentice to the farmer of the same dairy farm that Tess is working at. So she falls in love with them. And but she knows, hey, nothing can ever happen because I'm an outcast. He's never going to marry me. He ends up falling in love with her too. And so it's really cool. It's really nice. Side note, this part of the book to me personally was probably the least exciting. It's just describing life on a farm, and I live in a city. I don't intend on living on a farm, so I couldn't necessarily connect in that way. But it was very cool to learn about the various things that people do when working at a farm. End of side note. So they fall in love, and there's a little bit of inner tension because she really wants to marry him, but she won't let herself because she doesn't want to be a dark blot to Angel because she's an outcast to society. He doesn't know what has happened to her. She won't tell him. She doesn't want to tell him, but she so it kind of frustrates him. He's like, well, let's get married, and she just won't do it, even though she desperately wants to. Fast forward a little bit, they do end up getting married, and if the book ended there, it would be great, because it's what happens next is just gut wrenching and sad. So before we get to the sad part, one of the best, or the best act of the whole book, in my opinion, is right when they get married. It's called the section, or the act is called, what is it called? The Woman Pays? Anyway, yeah. Yes. So anyway, it's one of the sections of the book, and they finally get married, right? So they're on their honeymoon, and it's so cool to read. You read it with a smile on your face, because finally they get together, they get married, they're so happy. And the way they describe how they're in love with each other is just a joy to read. They go, and if you're married and you read this like I am, it was even better, because when they describe their honeymoon and how they're just sitting down, eating dinner together as a married couple, and they're traveling to not the hotel, but like the place they stay, it brings back the memories of like my honeymoon, and you can connect with their joy and their happiness and their love and their like hopeful anticipation of like life as a married couple, what you're going to be able to do and enjoy together, and how happy you're going to be the rest of your life. Those feelings are amazing, and I hope you all get to feel those at some point. I hope you all get married and go on a honeymoon with the person you love. So that whole sequence, reading that, was so fun and such a joy. It sets up the fall, and that just is soul shattering when you read that. It's the saddest thing. So eventually, on this honeymoon, Alec's a bad guy. Angel, her husband, decides he needs to tell her a secret he's been keeping a secret. He didn't want to tell her because he figured she would run away. So he tells her, back in his youth, in a fit of drunkenness, he slept with some random woman, and nothing ever came of it. But obviously that's wrong for him to do, and he felt terrible about it. And there it is. But Tess forgives him, and she then gets the courage to tell him her secret, because he told her his. And here's where your heart just drops. So she tells him what happens to her, and Angel cannot reconcile. He cannot live with it. He falls out of love with Tess because of what happened to her, and not because of something she did. He falls out of love with her, and cannot live he cannot live with himself with her as his wife. And just the sadness that she feels, and him too, because the tragedy of this book is that the reason he falls out of love with her, and the reason their happiness is shattered, is because of the mechanisms of their society. Because Tess is an outcast, and because this happened to her, therefore she cannot be a righteous or pure person in the eyes of society. And Angel cannot grasp that. He wants to own his farm and be successful, and he just cannot. He can't do it. And so he leaves. They don't get divorced. He just leaves. He says, "Well, we need space or whatever," and he leaves. And she goes back home with her parents. And oh my goodness, just the complete 180 turn from how happy they are eating dinner together to how right on the cusp of just having the greatest life that's all they wanted. And like, it's like someone gives you the Christmas present you want. It's like in your hands, halfway unwrapped, and takes it away and throws it in the fire, and you can never get it again. That's what it feels like, but to the millionth degree. So sad. So the rest of the book is just more sadness and good writing. um, yeah. So, but then what? Guess who comes back into her life eventually is Alec, and then the icing on the cake is that Tessa's family is in dire straits. Her father dies. They need money, but Alec offers to support them financially if she will come and be his bride. And then she does, because Angel Claire, her true love, moved to Brazil because he just cannot be near Tess, and there's opportunity for cheap land in Brazil. So she gets with Alec. And then the final icing on the cake is that Angel, while in Brazil, gets told what he should have already known innately by, like a peasant worker in Brazil, native to Brazil. And he's basically just like, dude, like, don't focus on what happened to Tess or what she was. Focus on what she could be. And then it clicks, and he's like, oh, well, I'm going to fall back in love with her. And then he comes back to England, and so they actually do end up getting together in the end. But then Tess is so just like mentally unstable from all these tragedies that happened to her, she ends up killing Alec, and then she is executed herself for her crime. So like, it's just like the worst. It's important for us to read these things, though, as humans, so we can, again, remind ourselves what it means to feel, what it is to feel, and to warn ourselves against these sad situations and not allow them to manifest in real life. Even though I'm sure the ultimate tragedy of this book is back in Thomas Hardy's day in Victorian England. This plot probably happened to a lot of people. Maybe not exactly, but similar. Just because that society, man, was messed up. And so, kind of the ironic thing, or the just another sad thing that really bugged me, is throughout the whole story, everyone in Victorian England is a Christian, or they claim to be. Culturally, a Christian is very much part of the culture, ingrained in it, in the Victorian society. So, they all go to church, they all say prayers, whatever. They know Psalms. But it's just culture, man. At least in this book, none of them really knew the meaning of Christianity. If they did, then Angel would have forgiven Tess and realized what happened to her was an injustice. And he would not have fallen out of love with her, and the church would have supported her. In this book, the church shuns her. It's terrible. It's super sad. And so that's something as Christians, we need to be on guard that we don't fall into that trap again. Like, read the Bible, So this book is phenomenal on so many levels. I want to read too. I think in this book, I haven't read a ton of Victorian novels. I'm starting to really want to, because the writing in every Victorian novel I've read is great. But I think I ran across in this book a sentence that, when compared to every other sentence in all of literature, or all of other Victorian novels, I think this encapsulates the Victorian genre the greatest. So I'll just read it. The afternoon advanced, and still she remained among the willows. Isn't that great? Linger on that, man. Linger on that and tell me you were not directly transported into Victorian farm village in autumn. That's just amazing. So good. So good. If nothing else, I just want this experience of me reading this book, I want it to inspire others who mostly just read fantasy and sci-fi or just kind of like crime, the sort of pop culture books. Um, to I want you all to challenge yourselves to read classic literature that seems scary and have like kind of boring covers or stuff, whatever. Um, like they're so good and so important. They will stretch your mind. They will help you appreciate what it means to be human more so than most fantasy books will. There are very few fantasy and sci-fi books that can cross-pollinate these genres. And if you know of any, let me know in the comments, please. I think Tolkien's is that. C.S. Lewis is that. It seems like in a lot of modern fantasy that has gone away, sadly. I'd love to find more of that. And I'm inspired so much by this book and other classics to hopefully incorporate that in my own writing. That's certainly my goal. But I hope all of you challenge yourselves and read classic literature in addition to supplement your fantasy and sci-fi reading. It will help you gain a better appreciation and understanding of sci-fi and fantasy and just life in general is my guess. I have lived only 35 years of life, so there's a lot more for me to experience. So others have more to say on that. But when you read classic literature, I feel that you have lived beyond your years and have more wisdom and experience than just your years give you because you're able to live other people's lives and experience their joys and sorrows. So Tess of the Dubervilles, 100 out of 10. Hope you all have a great night. Until the next one.